the PDQ Live team with Jordan, Tara, JJ, Jake, Chase, me, the strange man in the equipment closet. It's PDQ Live.
Hey everybody, welcome to PDQ Live.
We're live.
We are live. I was watching the intro. It looks like we still got. I was about to say Austin, but we don't know who it is.
It's a mystery freak out
mystery
in the show.
Man in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're talking making PowerShell a security asset.
Mm-hmm.
This came about because recently the Uber hack and the word PowerShell was said, so without a whole lot of information, people said, "See PowerShell bad."
Yes.
And I'm here to disagree.
Yeah.
In this case, PowerShell was not used. It was he got access through social engineering.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it because it's scary, right? And you and I have talked about it quite a bit. So should we just talk about the attack?
Well,
just in case.
He got on social engineering.
Yep.
And then he scanned the network, and there were a bunch of PowerShell scripts in there that contained passwords in clear text.
Yeah.
Unencrypted credentials.
Well, let's back up just a little bit, just so we talk about the origin, because we did a lot of research.
You want to go deep in how they got in there?
I just want to talk about it because the first part of it is a little scary, I think. And we did a video and posted it, and we're going to do another one after to just kind of dive into it. So they used social engineering, a thing called MFA fatigue, where they got his credentials, his username and password. They did have MFA turned on the user, but they just kept trying to log in over and over and over again. And so it kept pinging the guy's phone, and it was a contractor of Uber. So after a while, the guy just got annoyed, and he's like, "Yes, it's me. Fine, it's me." And he accepted it. And then he's in.
So with all that, how they got in there, at that level, he's still pretty limited in what he would have been able to do.
Okay.
But finding clear text passwords, in this case, they were in PowerShell scripts, but anywhere you store clear text passwords, you're going to have trouble. And that's how he got access to everything. So it wasn't that PowerShell was the issue. It's just PowerShell happened to be where they had stored unencrypted credentials.
But we're assuming that his machine had some kind of a keylogger on it, right? So even if he changed his password, it wouldn't have mattered.
We'll never know because he got everything. It didn't matter at that point.
Okay.
But we're going to go and we'll cover, I guess, the first thing, how to not use passwords that are unencrypted in your scripts.
Yeah. Seems like a bad idea. Yeah. Okay.
Can we share the screen here? All right. So the first thing, I just went over the lines. I'm going to set this up new on my computer here. This find module tag secret management. This is going to find the list of any module that has the secret management. Let's see, PowerShell Git. Am I not running as administrator? No, I am. Well, that was working this morning. Give me 1 second here.
I'm wondering if our network problem kicked you out.
I don't know. We're going to just reload VS Code because find module is kind of a default command.
Okay, so while you're doing this, questions, Jordan, because I gotta dumb it down for myself here. Okay, you're gonna run this, and what computer are you doing this on? So if you're in your environment, is this your local machine? Are you in a domain controller? What machine am I gonna start this on?
This is in a machine called 10 High. It's just the regular streaming machine. So this is whatever machine you were setting up to run your scripts on.
Okay.
All right, let's see here. Find module. Not be loaded. All right, let's see. We'll import that module. We'll follow what the error says.
Okay, so we need this module to do what you're going to do. So if I'm starting new, I'm just going to watch what you're doing and try to load it.
So I'm going to say I'm having pretty serious issues with my PowerShell that I wasn't having before. We're going to try a different console real quick.
Okay.
Boy, that's really bad. That was working about 20 minutes ago.
I think that this new set is absolutely cursed. What do you think? It might be.
I think without that, it's going to be hard to showcase a lot of things. So I'm going to go to a different machine.
Okay. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm just going to kind of briefly talk about what you're doing to my understanding of what you're doing. So you're going to try to build a secret vault in PowerShell to hide plain text passwords. Is that the gist of what we're going to do today?
Pretty much, yep.
Okay. And the point of doing that is so that if I do get hacked, someone who has gained access to my network wouldn't be able to find these plain text passwords because they wouldn't exist, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So I've moved on to a different machine for now.
Perfect.
I'm not sure what happened to those modules. It's something I'll have to dive in later.
Okay. Look at you go, though. You got it back.
On a time constraint, I don't want to do a whole lot of troubleshooting. So we did the find module with the tag secret.
Okay.
So this comes into all the options that you have. So the two we're doing are the secret management. That's the default one that allows you to interact with it.
Okay.
And then secret store, which is the built-into Windows version.
Okay.
But if you're using something like KeyPass or LastPass, anything like that, you can set up the vault for that as well.
So that would be a third-party password.
Yeah. So something with LastPass.
Okay.
Oh, first of all, I dealt with that one a little bit, and there's issues with PowerShell, and I'm not going to. I'm paraphrasing what the developer said, but it was basically PowerShell. So it's not a lot of support for that one. They're not big fans of PowerShell. You can get it to work. It's just going to take a lot. So if you're something like LastPass or KeyPass, you're going to need probably like your a certificate thumbprint and pass that through to unlock it. But we're just doing it local just because that's quick and easy.
So Jordan, just so I'm following you, because I've got to make sense of this. So PowerShell is going to encrypt it. Now I'm super safe. If I want to get extra crazy and use LastPass, like you said, another layer of security, is that right?
Yeah, so it's just the way same thing as like connecting to Azure. You need a way to authenticate with that. In this case, it's the certificate thumbprint.
Okay.
And I'm going to try and run ISC as a administrator.
Okay.
Eventually that will open, I assume. Nope, not that. Boy, I really wish that had not lost my critical modules there. Now I'm in a screen that's sized poorly. In case anyone wants to know if I am actually a professional what I'm talking about, apparently not.
Well, it's so interesting because the run-through yesterday, it worked perfectly, didn't it, Jordan?
Yeah, everything worked.
Yeah. This studio's cursed. It is. It really is cursed. Let's get the Sage for later.
Well, that's why I opened up ISC on the not in here. Where is there we go. ISC as an administrator. There we are. Now we'll actually be able to install things.
You do what I say. I'm the administrator.
I'm going to go back and recopy this.
Okay.
Apologize for all the technical issues, everybody.
It's the first day in the new studio, right?
It's been a morning.
Let's
be
morning.
honest, it really has.
We're in tech. There's always tech issues.
That's not the right one.
Jordan wanted to be a sysadmin again, and here he goes. That's right. That's right.
Well, normally I'll care sysadmin, but where something was working literal seconds ago, that's a little frustrating.
That's right. Oh, look, they're like, yeah, this is more relatable to my workday. It's right. Everyone knows this happens in tech. We're in tech.
Why can't I paste in my...
What could possibly go wrong? I don't know. Everything.
All right. We'll try just a single line here.
Okay.
If not, I'll have to type it out manually. The horror.
It's okay. You got this. Because you know what, Jordan? Honestly, I'm going to learn better if you do it step by step. Because sometimes, I don't know if the users feel this or the viewers feel the same. I'm just used to saying users. Sometimes Jordan talks so fast that I don't understand what he's saying. So it's easier for me if he goes slower. So that's okay. Maybe if we slow down, it'll be better for everybody.
We'll find out. Boy, this is... I don't want to say I'm filled with a rage, but I'm very upset.
And yet you're so calm. I like it.
All right, now that we have all those, all right, so I'm just installing the secret management and the secret store.
Okay.
That's the two that we're talking about, and then we're going to go through and do our configuration.
Okay, got it. Back on track.
All right, so once those are done installing here at some point.
I'm really liking that people are giving you advice in the chat, though. It's so cute.
Oh, I've just completely tuned out the chat because I was so focused on my screw-ups here. All right, so this is the first thing we're going to set up a configuration. This is to set up your default vault. If you've never done it before, it's going to ask you for what the password is.
Okay.
And I'm going to do something super secure.
Yep.
Hopefully I didn't typo that. Look at that. It's protecting me from myself.
It really is.
All right, so that just set up our vault. Now we're going to go through and set our first vault and the security one. And this is secure. Like, we're going to come up with the password to decrypt that, but when we encrypt the password itself, it's going to be locked to this machine with this user account. So even if they were to get my credential that I was using to unlock it, my vault, they would need to have that and then on my machine logged in as me. And if they have all that, there's a bigger concern than...
This
just
account,
your vault.
Jordan, is this a generic account? Am I a service account? What account am I using to do this?
So this one I'm not using an account at all. I built a password for a vault that is on this machine.
Okay.
And then I use that password to access the vault itself. There's no specific account.
Okay.
Within the vault, you can contain all of the credentials you want, service account or anything. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build it so when you run your script, instead of putting in your credentials, it'll go out there and it will pull the credentials out of the vault, and it never goes in clear text.
Okay, so don't lose this password is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Well, that's why we're going to save it as a CLI XML.
Okay.
We don't need to know the password. It'll know it for us.
Okay, love it.
All right, so we ran the first one. We built the vault, all of my passwords. And then we're going to create our first secret. This is where you'd put your domain credentials. Like if you want a service account that you're running or something that has access to run it, the set secret is where you're building those in.
Okay.
In my case, instead of doing credentials, I'm just doing the secret of life, which is obviously
Naps.
Yeah,
it is.
All right, and so you can see now that we're already got the vault open and everything.
Okay.
You can come down here and you can open that one, and it's going to pull in naps as the thing. So if I actually had put a credential object in there, that's where I'd pull that in.
Okay.
All right, so all that is nice. That's neat, but we want to make it so our scripts don't require us to ever enter anything, but we still want it secure.
Okay.
So we're going to come in here. We're going to set the password path because I have it out of order. And if anyone's wondering what that path is, it's just right there and there. Quintana Documents, Windows PowerShell. It's just where I'm putting it by default.
And that's where your scripts live. Okay.
Yep. Then we're going to run this line where read host is secure string. This is where we're going to put in the password that I set for the vault, the super secure one.
So don't mess up this one. Okay.
Yep. And then the last thing we'll do is we're going to take the secure string we just had and we're going to export that with CLI XML, which is heavily encrypted. You can't decrypt this object except for from this machine logged in as me or as you.
So many questions, but keep going. I'll ask later.
No, feel free to ask.
What happens when you rage quit?
So all this is accessing is the vault itself, none of the credentials. So if I rage quit, the service account that you have in there, all the credentials in there, those are still active. I mean, you want to reset those, but that's best practice anyway.
Okay, I want to make sure I know what account is tied to this one.
But this isn't accessing anything. This is on my computer. I'm putting in the credentials that I want so I can call them up later.
Okay.
All right, and so now on the top of your scripts, what we're going to do is just these two lines here. And the first one, we're importing the unlock for the vault, and then we're unlocking the vault with the password there. So for us at the top of the script, we're not going to see anything. I say top of the script. If you have parameters in your script, you want to put it below the parameter block.
Okay.
But that's, it'll warn you if not. Oh, is my path wrong? Import CLI XML. It's, I guess we'll grab this. We'll try it by the split and everything. I tried to type it out to make it clever. We'll just try that one there, see if that one works. Man, I am not doing great today.
Well, you had to pivot because the studio's possessed. So what are you going to do?
Import joint path. So, I don't know, you just, I mean, the path is still a thing, so it does still unlock.
Okay.
But this is the one, so you run those two lines.
Okay.
Once I'll figure out what I have wrong there later. Run those two lines at the top, that unlocks your vault. So then if you're running a command where it requires credentials, like the -credentials attribute, you would just put, instead of the actual credential, you do get-secret, the name of the credential you're looking for.
Okay.
And it will pull it out of the vault without decrypting it, so you're sending through encrypted credentials the whole time. So that way you can have automated scripts that you're not touching, where you have credentials that you don't have to type in, but they're not sitting there in clear text for people to, take over your entire environment.
And if I want to change those credentials every 6 months, I just come and edit the script, yes?
Yeah, so you have the vault. So in the case where I'm doing the local vault, I'd have to go through and update every secret. But if I was doing something like LastPass, anytime anyone updated the credentials, so they updated this service account, they update that in LastPass, your vault will automatically update as well. You don't need to go through and change anything. So it's a secure, and in that case, instead of putting the password that I have there, it's going to be like a cert thumbprint and a few other things. Like the unlock's a little bit different because you are going out to a website. You have to give it the URI, the cert thumbprint, and probably a password as well with all the setup. But those three, you go out, you query LastPass, and all your credentials are still right in there. You can pull them out, and those will update So if everyone goes through and builds theirs to connect that way, anytime LastPass updates, everyone's credentials will update as well.
That's cool. Okay. Love it.
All right, and that's pretty much for the credentials. That's that right there would have saved Uber a lot of pain.
Yeah. Okay, because now they couldn't have stolen the passwords. Okay.
All right, so
Got it.
the next part, that's the clear text. The next part we want to talk into, I've mentioned a couple of times, don't allow PowerShell version 2,
Yes.
which we'll cover that, and then also constrained language, so we'll cover getting that set up.
Okay, yeah. Why is PowerShell too bad? You talk about it all the time. Why? What's the problem, Jordan?
So PowerShell version 2 did not have a lot of the security features that came in 3. Things like it doesn't know what constrained language mode is. So even if you set proper security, PowerShell version 2 will just ignore it.
It does what it wants, yo.
Yeah, and the login is not quite as strong.
Okay.
So you want to be able to stop the regression of PowerShell version 2. But first, we're going to cover setting up the constrained language, because that one's pretty complex, and then we'll go into how do you block PowerShell v2 so they can't go in and ignore that.
Okay, so we want to force constrained language in our environment.
Yeah.
Yes?
So if I come in here, we'll see if this is working now. All right, so you can see I am in constrained language mode in my VS Code.
Okay.
That's why it broke. I went from full mode to constrained language.
Yeah, because it wasn't working
PowerShell
because you
get
had it
really
set up
loud.
before. Okay. Okay, so I'm excited to see how you're going to force constrained language because I'm going to guess how you're going to do it, but tell me how you're going to do it.
So by default, if you have a policy set for, I think it's UMIC.
A group policy?
Yeah, it's a group policy. Well, it's a security thing using device guard.
Okay.
If you set your policy with your security things, PowerShell will see that by default, and it will go into constrain on its own.
Okay.
You can force it there. It's semi-useful, but it's easy to get around because the way you get there is you set an environment variable.
It sounds like I should force it, everything you just said.
Absolutely we should.
Okay, well, yeah.
So we're going to open up my environment variables, maybe. You can see here, this one here, the underscore PS lockdown policy 4, that's forcing constrained language mode.
On the local level.
On the local level.
Okay.
So that's why if an admin gets into your system, they could remove that environment variable, reboot it, or restart the console, and it's going to go back out.
Okay, so let's make it so they can't do that.
Yep. So first, I want to see if I'm right about constrained language mode, because that will highlight why I said you got to be careful with
You want
constrained
to figure out why it wasn't working. I gotcha. Yeah, Jordan, I'm with you.
Right, so we're going to close that one down and go back into VS Code.
I love that you're doing this.
I don't like not knowing why stuff
I know.
is broken.
Everyone at home knows exactly why you're doing this, so there's no reason to explain it.
Because I was not intending to go into constrained language mode. So that one should now be full language mode, I believe, once it's finished loading in. Full language.
Full language mode.
So now I'm going to come in here and find module. There we go. Ta-da!
There you go. You're still the master of PowerShell. You showed it who's boss.
So I said I wasn't going to make any setting changes during our dry run, and I set constrained language mode.
What are you going to do?
All right, so now this could put up people's concern. Wait, constrained language mode is on, and so all these commands stopped working.
Yeah.
What constrained language mode does? It does prevent libraries from loading. You can define those. I didn't define anything. I think I have the deny all policy in there. So I put in constrained language mode, and it loaded in a policy that basically said nothing's going to work.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back. Hey. I feel less dumb.
Can I just point this out, though? Yeah. You made one tiny little mistake because you had to pivot, right? And it broke a bunch of stuff, and you're basically a computer. So these things happen, right?
Yeah, this one definitely. So I'm going into, if you go into Windows Schema's code integrity example policy, these are some example policies that you can use to define your constrained language mode. There is a lot to it.
Okay.
So this is the Learn.Microsoft for Understanding Windows Defender Application Control, WAC. And these are all the different settings that you can set in there, 1 through 3, and they all do different things. It's all complex. But if you dial it into your system, because each one has their own, if you have your own cert signing authority, you can say that's allowed. Anything that you sign at that point will run no matter what library it is.
Okay.
Or you can say, I want scripts from this folder to be allowed to run.
Ooh, extra big brother. Okay.
So,
and only that?
Yeah, this one is fine-tunable. I'm not diving deep into this one because every environment's unique and there's a lot to it, and you don't just want to run a boilerplate template.
Right.
You want to learn everything about this, customize it to your environment, make sure everything works.
So you don't do it Friday afternoon and put it right at the top. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, okay.
So we have in here all the example policies. I did copy one of these over to a different server so I could kind of showcase how you can make those changes.
Okay.
So if we're going to come up here, the policy I have in there is test policy. If we open that up, This is the one of the default templates. Come in there. You have all these rules here. Enable UMCI. That's the one that turns it on. Okay. And then update policy. No. So there's a whole bunch of policies in there. If I want to, I closed the wrong thing, or did I?
We'll find out.
I closed the Windows Explorer. So in a second. My sizing is atrocious here. I apologize. Guinness is down. We rebuilt a new one, and there's some fine-tuning to do. All right, so if I come into and I do set rule option, so I'm going to the policy XML, and then option 0, and then I want to delete it. Run that one. It's going to go in to find that rule within the XML we pointed it to, and it's going to 100% remove that. So give me a second here to find my folder again. So if I come back in and reopen the test policy, you can see that the rule down there for enable UMCI is gone. Okay. That's it. There's a built-in commandlet. It's command CI or command CI that is there by default on servers. If it's on Windows 10, you have to have a certain module. Okay. I can't think of, but if you're on a server, you can go through, you can do all that customization. Okay. And then the last thing that you're going to want to do is in PowerShell, there's a convert from CI policy. We're going to take the old policy and then you pass it through to a .bin. And that takes the policy you've built after you have all your rules defined and puts it into a new format, and that's what we're going to load up to group policy. Okay, thank good. I thought you were going to tell me we have to do this every time. I was really scared, Jordan. Okay, so we're going to do this just one time to all of our computers, yes? Yep. So now thank goodness. Okay. We're going to go to our domain. I named it AppLocker. We're not using AppLocker. We use AppLocker for blocking version 2, but that will come later. Okay. So it's going to be policies, administrative templates, system, and then I believe there's a device guard. You come in here, and then you enable this. You point it to the bin file that you have. You want it in a share that all computers can reach. Sysfile is a common one, but if you have a different share, you put the code integrity policy path there, and that is going to apply your code restriction or your library loading policy to every machine that way. And that's what's going to prevent them from doing things like, running their examples they built for a webcast, for example. So obviously test this, right? Make sure it works. This is one where if you don't have a lab, build one for this. Yeah, just to make sure. Because you want to make sure all the policies are set. But if you go through and you set it up to where if you have a code sign insert of your own and that's allowed, chances are you're going to be fine. But it's just one where you want to be very careful. But test. Once you do that, you build your policy out. You have the commandlets for that. You push that out with group policy. That's going to PowerShell by default 3 and up is automatically going to go into constrained language mode based on your policy. Okay. 2.0 will ignore it. So that's now what do we do about 2.0? Yeah. So now we're going to go into blocking that one. Okay. And by default, 2.0 is not going to. It'll be installed, but like the library .NET 3.5, I think has to be there. I've gone through and set this one up so it runs. So if you do get Windows optional feature, you can run F8 on that one. I got to tell you, now that I'm out of deny all constrained language policy, things are running pretty smooth. It's actually working, Jordan. Isn't that weird? So you can see on this one, version 2 is enabled. That's by default. So you can come in here and just run F8 to disable it. Okay. Which is fine and all, but if they're on your machine, they could just go through and run the reverse of that. Instead of disable, just do enable, and it's going to install it right back. So you want to stop that? Yeah, so we're going to go through, and what we're going to do is block the DLL or the assembly from loading. So first I have to enable version 2 back in so we can run it. All right, so on this machine here, I'm running here PowerShell version 2, no profile. So I'm actually running the regression, and I'm getting the version info about PowerShell version 2. And you're going to try to block the DLL. Yep. So right here, this is the one we're looking for. You've got this path. We're going to copy that. Copy the whole path. And then we're going to go into AppLocker. And basically, we're going to go enable AppLocker, and we're going to stop this DLL from being loadable. So then no matter what they do, if they go run version 2, it's going to deny and say it can't load that assembly. So back to our group policy. Thank goodness. We're doing it the easy way. Okay, so instead of computer, this one is going to be a user. I'm going to read my documents because I'll forget. Well, there's a million places, yeah. It is computer. I'm glad we did this. Computer policies. I usually just look through every folder and then yell a bunch and then go back. Windows settings, security settings. Let's see here. where was that? Security settings, application control policies. So you come into App Locker, you can see here there is no DLL by default.
Okay.
But if you go to Configure Rule Enforcement, Advanced, there's a checkbox right there, Enable DLL Collection.
Okay.
We're going to hit OK. And that's going to add the DLL rules here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then, okay, then you can go back and edit.
And we're just going to create a new rule where my window sizing's off again.
It's just messing with you every
Next,
chance
so we are
it
going
gets.
to deny everyone.
Yep.
And then this is going to be a path. There's also publisher file path. But publisher, Microsoft publishes. You don't want to block that publisher.
Okay. So be careful.
So path next, we're going to browse to folders and go through and find it. And can we browse files and actually copy and paste?
Wouldn't that be delightful?
Yeah. Would that one work? Yep. And then this right there, System Management DLL.
Okay.
So we're going to put that in there and create that policy, and that is going to block the library that PowerShell version 2 needs from loading period across the board. That one might require a reboot. It's worth noting. So once you apply this, it's not in effect right away. It might happen over time, but you might want to insist your users reboot.
Right.
With that one, apparently I built a lot of default policies. Well,
sweet. So, okay,
I'll be doing some cleanup later.
I'm kind of laughing because remember yesterday I said to you, so Jordan, everyone should be doing this in their environment, right? And I'm like, aren't they? Like, I'm kind of alarmed. And you're like, well, it's kind of hard, Tara.
So like this one, finding this DLL.
Yeah.
I did a lot of searching. It's not easy to find. And as someone asked, I said I could look that up, and it took me a while. And I mentioned it on our blog. I probably still will because that's clear, but I just figured while we're here, we can cover that one.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, I mean, if you're not using constrained language mode, preventing the regression doesn't matter as much because they can run a lot more.
Yeah.
With PowerShell, you might lose some logging.
Okay.
But if you're doing constrained language to keep your environment safe from PowerShell from being abused, this is mandatory, or it's like you don't have it at all. Once they're in your system, they can just install the PowerShell version 2 back on and run as a, I keep on calling it regression. I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, I like that word. That's a good word. Wow.
Right.
Okay. So a lot of information, but they need to do this. Yes?
For PowerShell, because it is starting in reputation. Like the security community loves PowerShell for security reasons, because if anything, they want to funnel people once they get an environment to use it, because they can use it for proper tracking.
Okay.
So the security community is a bigger fan of it than just the general IT community.
Yeah.
But the IT community is there because of a lot of misunderstanding. When PowerShell is used, they didn't use PowerShell to get into the environment. They breached your environment, they got in other ways, and then they used PowerShell to do more. And with these steps, it makes it so it's a little bit less easy to use PowerShell. And if they do use PowerShell, it makes it so the logging and the ways to track them is better. So if they're using PowerShell in your environment, you've been breached elsewhere, you've got bigger concern. And this is just kind of a catch-all. It's like, hey, how can we help?
So I have a question, Jordan. I'm sorry to ask you live, but remember what we did this morning with the script in PowerShell? Could you not put this in inventory?
So in this one with inventory, where the command we're running was Active Directory, a get user basically, with a little bit more to it.
Right.
I mean, as long as you were allowing, either if you signed it and you had sign that script, that'd be fine. Or if you allowed that trusted publisher, it would work just fine still.
I smell a new video, Jordan.
So we've got a couple of interesting comments going on in the chat. I'm just going to read those to you because it's an interesting discussion. This is from Tim. He says, in case GPO isn't an option for you, but deploy is, you can create registry-based PDQ packages to set GPO-related items. Yes. Also good for testing purposes if you don't have access to modify GPO. And then James chimes in, I think the issue with that is the registry setting can be removed by a bad actor. GPO keeps it enforced, so you'd need to set up a scanner to continually check that registry.
They're already ahead of us. Look,
so
we were just talking about that, Kelly.
The environment variable I set, Microsoft has been pretty clear. That one is more for testing, more than general use. But yes, you can set it in, you can set environment variable, you can set it in registry, you can set it specifically as a session variable, so when that session of PowerShell changes. But for most of those, if the hacker's in there, if they know where to look, they can remove the registry and reload it. They can remove the environment variable. If you go through and you set the device guard, they can't remove that. That's applied on a domain level, and that one, that's going to lock it into constrained language where they can't get past it.
Yeah. And I think you would enforce his GPO, right? I mean, I saw that other comment. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but absolutely everything that group policy does is basically making a registry change.
Yeah.
So there is ways you can recreate it. You'd have to look up where to set the PS _PS policy that I'd done. PS lockdown policy as a 4. You'd have to figure out where to put that in there, and you could put that in registry, and it absolutely would force that machine to always have constrained language.
Cool. Okay. What else do they say in there?
Did we have any questions come in? Or
We've got one question. Actually, we may have two, but let's hit this one first.
Okay.
Very simply, is this in a blog or bonus content? James D.
So I've already been tied in to do the reversion part in a blog. I don't have that done because I kind of got wrapped up in making the presentation. I'm still mad about constrained language.
You should be. Yeah. You're definitely going to stop thinking about it immediately.
But I will try to get that up into a blog as soon as possible because there's a lot of information in there that is worthwhile and there's a lot of security. Until then, I don't have it in front of me, but Lee Holmes did a fantastic job in a blog for that. I will find his blog so we can put it into the show notes before ours are built. That should be, once this is up on YouTube, give people at least a resource they can look until mine's up.
Okay, we do have one more.
Okay.
Hey guys, since AppLocker is only available in education and enterprise flavors of Windows, can you prevent V2 in a different way? David M.
Well, I like the one in inventory. I'm interested in what you can do that way.
So what it's doing with AppLocker is it's just preventing the library from loading. I don't know if it's possible to do that on a local level. I haven't looked into it. So it might be possible. I don't know what goes into preventing from loading certain libraries. Either way, it's going to be the same thing. The DLL that we looked up on that one when we did that search is going to be the library you want. You're just going to want to find how on a local machine to prevent that from loading. I just don't know what the equivalent on the local machine is off the top of my head.
Something tells me you can figure it out. You're you.
Yep.
All right, that's all we've got for questions.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry I broke my own PowerShell. That was...
You fixed it live and people loved it.
You fixed it live, man. It was awesome.
Was it like a light bulb actually flipped once I saw it was in constrained language? I was like, oh, there
it is.
But that highlights why constrained language mode is amazing. Some of the top security people I've talked to, Fernando Tomlinson and Fred Weineman, they swear by it. It's critical for security. But there's a lot that goes into it. So spend your time reading, make sure your policy fits your need, and test it before you go everywhere. Otherwise, you're going to find some scripts that you use for automation just will stop working.
Yeah, like we demonstrated.
Absolutely.
You did it on purpose, Jordan.
I wish. I wish I could claim that. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this makes you feel a little bit better, at least on how to proceed with PowerShell, and realize that it's not the problem, it's the solution.
Yep.
For PDQ.com, I'm Jordan.
And she's Tara.
Oh, I'm Tara.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, James D. and David M., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.